Hey guys, Alexandra here. Okay, so today I wanted to talk to you guys about formula feeding, why we chose to formula feed, and how to overcome the stigma associated with formula feeding. Okay guys, so today's video is gonna be pretty lazy because I've been binging Gilmore Girls all morning. I hope you don't mind that I'm comfy. So let's get started. This is not a video to bash breastfeeding or people who breastfeed. If you do and it works for you, that's absolutely great. I think that it's a great thing. But if it doesn't work for you, I'm here to tell you that it's okay. Like, do not beat yourself up about it. So first of all, I want to say, I am so tired of hearing breast is best. Formula feeding is just an excuse for people who don't want to breastfeed. That is so false. There are so many reasons people do not breastfeed. I always said that I did not want to breastfeed. It's just not something that I really thought I wanted to do until I found out I was pregnant. And then, of course, I start reading things and everybody says, oh, well, breast is best. You really need to breastfeed or they're not going to get the nutrients that they need. And so I decided that I was going to try it. So Mateo was born a little after lunchtime on a Wednesday. And by Friday morning, I was so stressed. Mateo was so hungry. My supply wasn't coming in. And he didn't want to latch very well. It was just a struggle. Everything about it was a struggle. He lost a lot of weight. So I told the nurse, I said, you know, could you please get me some formula because I just really can't do this right now. I might revisit it later, but as of right now, like, I just want to give him formula. The nurse that I had at that time was my favorite nurse. I had her for 2 days that I was in the hospital, and I wish that she was the only nurse that I'd had the whole time. She was so sweet, understanding, helpful. She was all about whatever you need to do for you and your child because everybody's not the same. And she never, ever, ever pushed me like some of the other nurses did. I had one nurse tell me, well, you just need to try a little bit harder. And then another nurse called the lactation consultant to come see me because I really needed to try. It was best for baby. And that is just so stressful to a new mom. You have so many things going on right after you give birth. And I had said that I wanted to try to breastfeed, but if it didn't work out, then I was just gonna do formula feeding. Now at the hospital that I gave birth at, they are very much breast is best. Everything was, are you gonna breastfeed? Are you gonna breastfeed? You should breastfeed, you should try it. We have lots of great resources. Never, ever, ever was I asked if I was going to formula feed or told about any formula feeding resources. It was always breastfeeding, which looking back really frustrates me because it made me feel like that was the only option. Once I was in the hospital and everybody was like, breast is best, breast is best. You really need to try, you really need to try. You feel like this huge pressure to make it work. And it just wasn't working for me, and it wasn't working for Mateo. He dropped down a good bit below his birth weight, and he was jaundiced. So he needed to be eating a lot and pooping a lot, but that wasn't happening because I wasn't producing enough. He wasn't able to eat enough. So the formula feeding really saved us. That is why we decided to formula feed, because I wasn't supplying enough and Mateo was hungry and jaundice, and we just had a lot going on. I had to have an emergency C-section, so with formula feeding, my husband was able to help as well. I had so much guilt for not being able to breastfeed. I can't tell you how many times I cried because I couldn't breastfeed and how awful I felt. I felt like I was failing Mateo, which is not even close to true, but due to all the pressure for breastfeeding, it just made me feel like I wasn't being a good mom because I wasn't breastfeeding. And I'm here to tell you that that is not true. So what I ended up doing was when I came home from the hospital, I did try to revisit breastfeeding. I I did everything that I could. I bought a manual pump because it didn't hurt like the electric pump did in the hospital. I bought nipple shields to try to see if maybe that would help Mateo's latch, and just nothing. Like, nothing was good enough. My supply was still not coming in, but I also was told that I was gonna have to pump every 2 hours, which was practically impossible. I literally would have had to do nothing. I mean, Mateo was eating every 3 hours. I already had a hard time like getting things done around the house, or, you know, I'd have to hurry up and eat breakfast and do some laundry. And then by the time I did all that, it was time for me to sit down and feed Mateo. There was no way I was gonna be able to fit pumping in there and still be able to do anything, honestly. It was just too time consuming, and especially since Mateo had already been on the formula at the hospital, I just felt like it wasn't absolutely necessary. I could see that he was growing great. He was getting back up to his birth weight. His jaundice was going away slowly but surely. And I just knew that if I couldn't do it, it wasn't the end of the world. I think I just reached this point where I was like, okay, Alexandra, if you can't do it, it doesn't make you a bad mom. Like, it's okay. You don't have to breastfeed. I wasn't breastfed, neither were my siblings. I know tons of people who weren't breastfed, and they're perfectly fine. You can't convince me that breastfeeding is really what is absolutely best. Little tidbit that I'm gonna share with you guys. So before I found out I was pregnant with Mateo, I was taking medicine for anxiety. I struggle with anxiety and have for a long time, but didn't really realize it until a few months before I found out I was pregnant with Mateo. So when I finally got on my medicine, I was feeling great, doing great, like everything was good. Well, then when I found out I was pregnant with Mateo, I got off of my anxiety medicine. When you have a baby, it's really a stressful, emotional, hormonal time already. Not to mention postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety come into play with some women, which looking back, I think I definitely had postpartum anxiety as well as, you know, my regular general anxiety. I wasn't gonna be able to breastfeed if I got back on my anxiety medication, which I kept telling myself that I was fine, everything was fine, I didn't need to get back on it. But looking back, I really did. But I just told myself that because everyone did push and say, oh, you need to breastfeed, you need to breastfeed. And so I thought that's what was best for my baby. I didn't stop and think that if I'm not okay, then I'm not gonna be taking the best care of Mateo. Formula feeding Mateo allowed me to get back on my anxiety medication. Like, I was able to take better care of Mateo. And I was able to take some of the stress away, because having a baby is a really stressful time in general. Adding, you know, other things, the stress of feeling like I needed to breastfeed but not being able to produce enough, all of those different things come into play. Like, when you have a baby, literally everything stresses you out. Every little thing makes you like go over the edge. Right after I had Mateo, like, because my hormones were everywhere, I was crazy emotional. Like, everything made me cry. Another thing, people always say, well, when you breastfeed, you have a special bond with your baby. Okay, maybe breastfeeding moms feel that way. Babies do not feel that way. I have such a special bond with Mateo. Every mom has a special bond with their child because you're their mom. You carried them for 9 months. They listened to your heartbeat for 9 months. You gave birth to them. You took care of them. Like, you can't say that just because you breastfeed, you have a more special bond with your child than people who formula feed. So another thing is the cost. A lot of people say, oh, well, formula is so expensive. We really can't afford to do formula. So I'm gonna try to breastfeed because that's cheaper. But in reality, it's not. So you have to buy the breast pump, which I know sometimes insurance companies will cover most of it, so you only have to pay a certain amount. But you have to keep up with parts for the breast pump. Then you have to buy milk storage bags or containers. So there are lots of things that you have to purchase on the regular when you're breastfeeding. I buy Sam's Club formula. So that saves us a ton of money. Like, he gets about 4 8-ounce bottles a day right now, and one container of formula costs us $25, and it lasts us about 2 weeks. So it's really not super expensive. If you can't breastfeed, it's okay. Your baby will be fine. Looking back, wish that I could have really explained that to myself, because I tried so hard, and for such a long time I just tried and tried and tried, and it wasn't what was best for Mateo, and it wasn't what was best for me or our family. Being able to get rid of that stigma associated with formula feeding really brought our family together. A resource that really helped me was a formula feeding mom group on Facebook. So if you are kind of on the fence about whether you're wanting to breastfeed or formula feed, or if you just know that you don't want to breastfeed, join that formula feeding mom group. I filmed this topic today because this was what was voted most popular on my Facebook page. I did a poll, what content you guys wanted to see from me, and this was number 1. So number 2 was marriage tips and marriage advice. So that's going to be coming up on Sunday. I'm really excited about that one. So if you want to make sure you don't miss it, go down below, click subscribe, and press the little gray bell so that you can get notifications every time I post a video, so you will not miss a thing. And comment down below any other topics that you want me to discuss on here.